tell us about that and this hunt for the mysterious, votes that probably weren't cast.
Right, Michael. This is sort of the type of a granular election meeting that I don't think that we have covered in decades past. But here we are an hour and a half outside of Atlanta here at this February meeting. And the reason we're here is that 3 of the 5 members on the Georgia State Election Board are individuals who have expressed conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. They are Donald Trump allies, and with 3 out of 5 votes, that's a majority. And effectively, they could file a motion and effectively take control of Fulton County's administration of its elections, which just in the last hour, they put forward a motion to subpoena Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State. He is going to have to be arriving here at their next meeting. But the big question going into tomorrow morning is whether they will put forward a motion to do just that and essentially take state control, put in their own person to run Fulton County's elections, the most populous and diverse county in the state, and effectively make the rules as they see fit in Fulton County. They could change potentially early voting timeline, weekend voting timeline, where drop boxes are, how voter registration is conducted. There's a lot of serious concerns here in Georgia, understanding that there was a widespread indictment just 2 years ago against a lot of state officials here in Georgia over alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
It is important to note that Brad Raffensperger is currently a candidate in the Republican primary for governor in Georgia. Georgia is not a side player, if you will, in this year's upcoming midterm elections. They are holding elections themselves for the governor's mansion, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and notably also United States Senate seat Jon Ossoff, most vulnerable member, one could argue, of the Democrats that is up for re-election this year. I want to read from some reporting that has a byline of Vaughn, Laura Barron Lopez, and Carol Leonnig. This is MS Now reporting. This memo shows White House directing DHS to hunt for voter fraud by naturalized citizens. MS Now has also learned that senior DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and Justice Department appointees have held a series of meetings to discuss sending law enforcement to polling places to secure elections. Jason Johnson, what people may not know about you, or maybe they do because they watch the show, is that at one point you were an election observer.
Yes.
For the UN.
Yeah, not for the United Nations, but in Mexico.
In Mexico.
And in South Africa.
Does this sound like something that's
supposed to be happening in a functional democracy?
Yes, because I'm like...
No, not at all. In fact, this is the kind of thing that if you were an international election observer, you would be reporting back to your home country saying, this is a mess, this is a problem, this is what you see in Venezuela, this is what you see in China to the degree that they let people vote, this is what you see in Russia. And here's the thing, Simone. None of this is about election fraud. We all know this. It's not about election fraud. No one cares about election fraud. Election fraud doesn't really happen. It's always been ridiculous to think that somebody who comes to this country illegally, with all the dangers and risks that go with that, just being pulled off the street is like, but I got to go vote, right?
Much less someone who is on the brink of becoming a U.S. citizen.
Exactly. It never made any sense one way or another. But this is all a pretest for stealing the 2026 midterms. If you have a state takeover of Fulton County, which is, again, the most populous county, it's the most diverse county, it's also the most Democratic county in the state, you don't have to steal the entire election. You just got to shave off some numbers. Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock did not win by large margins. And even if this is a bad year for Republicans, and it appears to be, but it's February, so who knows what things could be like by November, all they have to do, keep a few 100,000 people from voting, keep a few 100,000 people home. And here's the thing. It's not just taking over. The Republicans, when they went and used the FBI to go and take over Fulton County, they took voter rolls. They took voter rolls, and they're going to use that to hunt down and harass individuals who should be able to vote this fall.
Here's the thing that I learned in your reporting, Vaughn, yours, Carol's, and Laura's reporting, which is, in as much as this is about elections and destabilizing elections, there is what you could describe as the side project of Stephen Miller's deportation machine. Let me read you some of your own reporting. The driving force behind the sweeping HSI investigations is White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, according to 3 people relaying concerns about the program. His office has held weekly meetings on the launch of the plan in recent weeks with both DHS and Justice Department leadership, the people said. Part of this, Vaughn, is about elections and democracy, but part of this also is about Stephen Miller's project to expel people from this country.
And I think that the part about this is when you're looking at the idea of the Great Replacement theory, it has been used to essentially try to galvanize Republican voters around the country, and especially the 2018 midterms, the 2022 midterms. And that's the idea that Democrats want immigrants to come into the country so that they can vote. And there is just a reality that there is no evidence of widespread or even significant or even minuscule voting by undocumented individuals in the country in American history. And I think that this is sort of, it reminds me of also there was this big investigation by the Republican Attorney General out in Arizona back in 2022 in which there were allegations, conspiracy theories of dead people voting. And he did everything he could. He was an ally of Donald Trump, and essentially he came up with nothing and had to put that forward and was ridiculed by Republicans. And I think that this is another example of the ways in which 6 years into this, they are struggling to find new conspiracies or new claims and allegations of fraud to justify the way in which Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. And I think it's important that there are still individuals within the White House, Stephen Miller, but also at the local level, like one of the state election board members here in the state of Georgia, who just about an hour and a half ago, the words that she said were, quote, "We want free and fair elections in Georgia, because right now we do not." That is one of the individuals that in real time here in the state of Georgia, just 7 months from the midterm, is help shaping election administration policy here in this pivotal state.